Welcome everybody to the September 3rd, 2025 Garrison Board of Education regular workshop meeting. Dusty, will you please call the roll?
Jocelyn Apicella. Here. Eric Arnold.
Here.
Jennifer Harrington Wilson. Here. Dan Jasnow.
Here.
Peter Lesser.
Here.
Ken Schott.
Here.
Sarah Torn. Here.
All right. Pledge allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item 2 on the agenda. Do we have any? Be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Garrison Union Free School District hereby accept the agenda as presented. Do I have a motion?
Second.
Do we have any changes to the agenda? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Moving on to item 3, the superintendent's report. Dr. Stowe.
Here we go. We can finally get the superintendent's report going. Thank you, Dan. Good evening, members of the community and Board of Education members. This is probably my favorite time of year, opening schools. If I haven't said it before, I'll say it again. The school is lonely in the summer when we, after the summer scholars leave, and when the energy of the staff and the students come back in the building, this place really becomes alive, and we're really excited about this school year. So I wanted to give the community and the board a little bit of a lens into our schools, of how we prepared for the school year and how the school year in the first 2 days has gone. So I want to first say that we had 3, we usually have 2, we had 3 really engaging professional learning days led by Mike McDonald, our new Director of Innovation and Learning, and we really focused heavily on innovative instructional practices, and this work will all continue to be ongoing and a theme for the year. We looked at STEAM integration. We've talked with this board and this community that there's money in the budget to enhance our STEAM program, and we are focusing on how do we do that. We talked about literacy. We always have to talk about literacy, and we really started to focus on the New York State numeracy briefs, and so we focused on that. And we are launching this year a new fellowship, a fellowship of teachers who want to commit to long-term professional learning, and we're going to move the envelope using anchor text about what does an innovative classroom look like, what does the instruction entail, what is lessons that are designed for deep learning, authentic learning, as well as critical and creative thinking. So I'm happy to report that we have a really robust cohort of teachers that have signed up to be in this new fellowship, and we really look forward as we get underway to sharing with the board and the community the incredible work that I know that we'll do. And so Mike and I are really excited to lead that charge. We have finally had some movement. I've talked to, I think even more difficult than getting a lunch program up and running in Garrison was to get a bunch of people to decide, like, how are we going to make the visual enhancements to the school. I'm happy to report that the new outdoor sign, which is not digital, my friends, is out there, and it looks beautiful, and it really reflects a nod to the charm, matches the building, but also is a little bit more of a modern take on a traditional sign. I will say the magnetic letters are coming, so if you're driving up and down 9D and you see it handwritten, we have someone with really beautiful handwriting in the meantime, but they are in order, and we'll be putting magnetic letters up there as well. I also want to say is if you walk into our main office vestibule as you're coming in, take a look to the right, and you will see a beautification project, which is an offshoot of the design committee, particularly Dusty's eye for design. And we want to thank Dusty for finding a woodworker that has the welcome sign. And if you look at the diamonds that are in the welcome sign, those match the diamonds that are in the original front door in the 1908 building. So it's a nod to our heritage and our origins, and above it you'll see a photo of the 1908 building. So it really is a welcoming addition to visitors and families and people that come into that space. And before it was a pretty blank canvas and pretty sanitized, and now it looks warm and inviting. So thank you. The other thing I will say is that we are through arts and education. We are bringing in Candace Winter. I think the board selected that, and she's going to be working with the students this fall to, above my head, start to imagine what a student-led mural will look like. So all of those things are actually starting to take place, and I know it took a long time. It took a year of planning, and I feel very confident that there were a lot of parent voice, student voice that resulted in this, and I think the outcome reflects that thoughtfulness that everybody took. So thank you for everybody that was on the design committee. Now you can see your work and more work to come. Opening of school, first 2 days. You always want to report that it's off to a great start, and you want to mean it, and we really are off to a great start. Our students have come in, smiles on their faces, and leaving with smiles on their faces, and you can go into our classrooms and instruction is happening already. The students were ready to come back to school, and our teachers were incredibly prepared and energetic. So we're off to a great start. Music is happening, art's happening, PE's happening, reading, writing, arithmetic, all of that is happening, and we're starting to really, see the fruits of a real well-planned, organized opening of school. I will say that I'm just going to remind the community, Ms. Emig puts out some procedures for drop-off, arrival. I just want to remind families to take a look at that. And those procedures may be a little bit tweaked from last year. I think it's really important for the safety, security, and the efficiency of our arrival and dismissal that families just take a peek and remind themselves, familiarize themselves with this year's procedures. Yes, it has happened, Garrison. Lunch has been served. We have started our school lunch program thanks to the partnership of the Putnam Valley Central School District, their Board of Education, Superintendent Luff, and Dr. Chan, their Assistant Superintendent for Business, and Joe's efforts. We've been working hard all summer into the late spring, and everybody, this board, Joe, myself, Allison, we all had a will to get this done, and Putnam Valley matched that will, their board, their leadership, and we got it done. So we are now officially a federal school lunch program under the Putnam Valley Central School District's Food Service Authority. We're legit, we're a real school now. We're good. But we served on day one 175 meals, and today I think we served upwards of 185 meals. That is close to 90% participation rate in the first, 85 to 90% participation rate in the first 2 days. Yes, there were some hiccups. That's going to happen. Our point of sale system isn't up yet. That's coming in. We had to work out some kinks, but all in all, I went to every table. When I say every table, I went to every table the last 2 days. And I asked every kid about the lunch. All but 3 of them over 2 days have said it was great, it was excellent. I will not name the student, but I asked her, how were the waffles? And she said, oh my God, they're better than my mom's. And I said to her, do not go home and tell your mom that, just tell them they're good or you'll never get waffles again at home. Listen, is every meal going to be a home run? Maybe not, but we have Chef Steve here, he's energetic, he's excited to work with our kids. Nurse Melissa is down there making sure that any food allergies were taken care of. We're working some of the kinks out, but thanks to Allison and her team's sort of thoughtfulness, we had plans and we're revising plans. It's been relatively smooth. I think today we got through the whole lunch wave in about 11 minutes, which was a record for us. I think that's about as quick, and that's a lot of lunches if you think 80 to 85% of a lunch wave is getting lunch. So lots of happy faces. Yelp reviews so far are really good on Chef Steve in Putnam Valley, so we're really excited about that. As I shared with the community this afternoon, and I has been sharing, Allison and I got to meet a candidate yesterday for the SBO position, John Bradley. We were impressed. He is a Cold Spring resident he went to and had 3 children graduate from Haldane. He's a retired Putnam County Sheriff's deputy, and he's been trained as an SRO, and he's kind of filled in as SROs in the school building. So after Allison and I's initial meeting, we felt really comfortable. We met with him today with staff, with Sergeant Rossi, who is the head of the SRO program. We had a wonderful meeting, and we started onboarding John. We first met with our school clinicians to talk about our SEL programming, to talk about kind of like how we do things here, to talk about how do you interact with neurodiverse students. We went through that, and they spent about 3 hours before we had him out in the hallways doing that. There's more work to be done and more training to be done. We then introduced him to our staff and our students. He had some time to meet with some key people of our emergency response team and go over our safety plans and our visitor management system. I've spent a lot of the day with him, looking at how we do high school drop-offs and pickups and all of that sort of stuff. And John was, out in the recess area with me talking to the kids. And I sent that, as the board knows, I sent that message out to our community. So far, John has been he is kind, he is mild-mannered, and all he wants to do, as he said, he says, I just want to fit in and be part of the Garrison community. And our teachers welcomed him. He met us at the staff meeting this afternoon, and as I said, he was well received. So I just wanted to give the board an update on that. So I also wanted to give the board and the community an update on our enrollment. We're pretty steady in terms of our enrollment. We have 212 students as of yesterday. I don't know if someone walked in the door yesterday, but yesterday we did have a couple enrollments kind of happen. But as of yesterday, we had 212 students in the Garrison School. That's pretty even, pretty consistent with what we ended the year last year, right, Joe? Give or take 1 or 2 students. We have 58 students attending Haldane. We have 24 students attending Putnam Valley, and 17 students attending James O'Neill High School. So the enrollment over the past couple of years is pretty steady. We're not seeing a drop. I know a lot of other districts are seeing drops in their enrollments. We're really not seeing that. So that's where we're at today. And that concludes my superintendent's report, but I am absolutely happy to answer any questions and comments.
Any questions or comments for Greg?
I just want to say thank you again to Greg and Joe for your determination to make school lunch happen over the summer. I really think you didn't drop the ball once on this, you really pushed for it.
Joe can get to it. Yes. Thank you.
So how is it for sure?
Thank you, Joe. Thank you.
We need 1 for Joe for lunch, 1 for transportation, 1 for facilities.
We
All
need
the hats.
different hats in that. I also just want to again thank Putnam Valley for their willingness to partner with us. They did a lot of work that they did not have to do this summer in order to support the program for us. So I'm thrilled that it's being well received and it's working out. And I never thought I'd see the day that school lunch was actually happening at Gus. So it kind of feels like a miracle. Congratulations.
Any other comments? All right. Moving on to board remarks, or president remarks. So I just want to echo, what Greg said, extend a warm welcome back to everybody, and especially to a warm welcome to our new staff, McBurger, in the first grade. First grade, yeah. And all the new folks that are in the building. The building looks great. Thank you to Joe, Mike Anito, his whole staff, the custodial staff, facility staff, for making the building really sparkle. All the updates we've had on the design committee work really make the place look great. And I think a couple of things I'm most excited about are the PD work that we're doing this year. I think we're continuing to invest in the types of things that make this district and this school really great, and then align with the priorities that we have been focusing on for the last several years. The environmental education components, as well as the STEAM programming, innovation, And those are things that we will look to continue to do over the months and years ahead, hopefully. And then, just again, echoing what Sarah said on the school lunch program, we can't thank Putnam Valley enough for everything that they have done to make this happen. It really is, as I said in the last meeting, I think a Herculean effort to get this to the place where it is today, to make this happen after we heard for so long that this was not possible. And I think it's just so important for the community to have this service available in the building for the kids, and shows that we're committed to improving the services that we do offer here. And then again, thank you to John Bradley. We are very excited to have him here in the building and to be able to kick off this program that I know was very important to a lot of the folks here. So we're very excited to have him here, have Phillipstown resident in this role, and somebody that I think is going to be a really good fit for the district. All right, moving on to item 5, board communication presentations. We have transportation and facilities update from Joe.
All right, so the school year started pretty well as far as transportation is concerned. I would say our biggest issue that we currently have is the construction that's happening on Route 9. And until that happens, our A bus, which spends the most time on that road in the morning, is probably going to have some lateness issues. But other than that, we really have had a good year to start with transportation. The ridership does seem like it's up. The number of from just the kind of eyeballing the arrivals in the morning, it seems like there's a few less drop-offs than what we had in prior years. Our longest route is about 55 minutes, and that's down from 70 minutes last year. So, we were making some tweaks and making some things here and there to change things around. With the enrollment changes at the high schools, we changed the feeder program for the high school run, and that appears to be working okay. So, but if there's any issues, they can call, or they can send an email. There's been some requests to switch some stops around for safety, and we'll make corrections with those. So, yeah, it's pretty good as far as transportation is concerned. Are there any questions on transportation before we go on to the next subject?
Not a question, but you and I discussed this a little bit, but it sounds like we haven't heard very much from parents yet in terms of complaints or questions about the route. So
no, you can count on one hand. It's really pretty good.
Great.
Is there a chance that they could start the construction a little later to allow us to run our buses?
I don't know exactly who to talk to, but I'm going to find out. Because really, if they could just give us until 8:30, or take their coffee break between 7:30 and 8:30, we would be okay. Because it doesn't appear to be, we don't have problems with the high school run. It's the elementary run that's causing us problems, and it's specifically that A route, because right now the A route starts at Putt Valley, and then it comes up, and it just does Route 9. It just goes up Route 9, goes up to the top of the old Albany Post Road, and comes back down. And that's all it basically does, because it doesn't really have any time for anything else, because it's coming from Putt Valley to start its run. And that's the one that's really getting crushed because of the backups from the construction they're doing in front of the Shakespeare Festival or whatever.
Thank you.
One of these clicks. Yeah, we're backed up. It's construction.
You want to try to use an arrow key or just? Okay. So it's a little bit small there, but just we have a couple of projects that are ongoing. And so you have the hot water and the gym roof replacement. Those are both from a grant. And then you have the 2025 projects, we're calling them, which is the projects that are related to the capital, the transfer to capital that's in this current budget. And that's the retaining walls, the front stairs, the curbs, the walkway, the railings out front, and then the roof replacements on the main office and the original 1908 section of the building. So that roof replacements would basically do the whole, finish off the whole original building with the roofs for that. And then we have one that's in the planning, starting at the planning stage this year, and that's the forest classroom.
Great. Any questions from board members about the status of any of the facilities projects?
I can, do you have another, I forget what, did you have another slide or just this one? Okay.
I don't know, if I can advance it, you will see. Nope. It's not. No, it doesn't like me today. I don't have.
Because I do have an update on a couple of them as to where they are.
I do not have another slideshow, but.
Okay, we're good. All right, so the hot water heater project, it did go out to bid once. It, with the configuration of it as being second shift work and the cost of removing the piping between the one boiler room to the other, it was over the budget that we have within the grant. So we repackaged it and put it back out to bid. Bid's going to be open next week. So it has all the approvals. It has all the approvals from SEG. It has all the approvals from the grant office. That one's ready to go as soon as we get a number that's good. And when we do get a number that's good, which I'm anticipating we're going to get next week, we would target the board to award it at the following meeting on the 17th. And then as soon as we have appropriate paperwork from the contractors, they can start. The location of the work is primarily in the two boiler rooms. There really isn't any work in the rest of the building, so it is something that could be done during the day, and that's why it was repackaged this way. So, and the other thing too that's kind of recent in the industry with plumbing work is no one does any soldering or hot work anymore. They're all using these hydraulic pro press machines for plumbing, so there's not a need to disable any fire alarms or anything because there's no soldering going on. So we anticipate we should be okay doing that work while school's in session. So that's what's happening with that project. The roof replacement project for the gym is in the state now where we got the preliminary approval from the dormitory authority for the project. I have some additional paperwork I have to send to them, and which will be done in the next week or two. And then they are probably going to chew on it for about 6 weeks, and then hopefully get back to us and say, you know, you're good to go. We'll submit it into SED, and then whenever it's approved, that's another project that the only thing we have to wait for is good weather, because that roofing is not over classroom space. Well, the gym is classroom space, but it's not a space where there's any skylights or anything. That's really, you're doing roofing on a gym, the only thing you have to worry about is skylights. So people aren't falling through skylights. So we don't have that, so that's not a problem. So that can be done whenever the weather and we have all the approvals. The 2025 projects, we had the asbestos design is done. So essentially what we have is we've got a roadmap for how the asbestos removal has to be done. And it's actually less work than what we anticipated, so that's a good thing. And then the design is about 75% complete. So as soon as the design is complete, that can be submitted to SED, and as soon as the SED says you could go, we could go, and we could start some work on that in the spring. But reliably, a lot of that's a summer project because we're going to take the front of the building offline, you know, to do all that sidewalk and curbing and stuff. That most likely would be a summer next year project. Okay. That's kind of the update of where those capital projects are. We're working with the same architect that we've been working with. Oh, and the forest, we have to do a preliminary meeting with just our district management, and then we're gonna probably be inviting people to participate on the committee to do the forest improvements. And there are definitely some staff members interested, which is good, because we definitely, because it's, the whole point of it is it's gonna be a curriculum. If there's curriculum, it's supposed to take place there. So we need the staff to really get behind how they wanna use it as a part of our curriculum and things like that. So it's good that that's coming in there, and yeah, I anticipate we would probably have a meeting in October, a meeting in November, maybe another one in December, and then from that point, the committee would recommend to the either the finance or the facilities committees as to what they think that the forest project should include. So,
yeah. And as you've said before, the facilities projects that we just went through, those are the culmination of multiple years of budgeting. It's not all from the last budget cycle. We just want to make sure that the community is aware of sort of where we stand on these, and that they all have long lead times and
yes.
a lot of hoops to jump through. So we appreciate you keeping track of everything and keeping us informed.
Okay.
Any other questions on any of these issues? Okay, let's move on to item 5B. We have discussion of community members. So I can introduce this topic if that's helpful. So Jocelyn had raised a question about sort of how we, essentially how we define community members for the purposes of our board committees. So the committee charges talk about the makeup of committees being Board of Education members, administrators, faculty, staff, and parents or community members. So we had some email discussion about what the parameters of that are. Do you want to talk about why specifically this came up?
Sure, and I think even though it says DEI committee, it could be for any of them.
Sure.
We've had a couple, we did an open call to the community to join some of our committees, and Dusty received a couple of, interested people. So I reached out to them to just hear why are they interested, and it turns out that they don't live in the Garrison district, they live in Cold Spring, so they live in the town of Phillipstown. So I haven't gotten back to them yet, because I want to hear what folks think. What does community mean?
Yeah. And I think, I'll share my concerns about sort of the broader definition of community here. Obviously, we love volunteers. We'd love to have people on the community, on these committees. We're always looking for volunteers for the committees. I think, from my perspective, there's some concern about opening up community members to sort of the broader non-voters of Garrison district, just because then, it sort of puts us in a bind in terms of what is our principal basis for saying somebody outside of the Garrison district can or can't participate. And so if we were to, obviously it sounds like this person who wrote in to be in the DEI committee, is somebody who, might be able to offer a lot, could potentially be a great, visitor to one of these, a DEI committee meeting or something like that. But if, the flip side is, what if there's somebody who's very anti-values of the Garrison district, who's from outside of the Garrison district? What would we then say at that point about whether they can or can't participate? So I think, in my view, sort of keeping the definition of community members to pretty, narrow to voters of the Garrison district protects us best from a situation where, there's somebody from Lakeland or somebody from, Putnam Valley or somebody from wherever else that wants to be a part of this, and then we can't really say, or we don't have a principled basis to say yes or no to that person. So that's my concern. I shared that over email with Jocelyn, but we wanted to, open it up to the board and see if people have other thoughts about this. We could maybe think about sort of defining some of this a little better in the committee charges so that it's clearer. But if folks have other thoughts about it, we would certainly welcome that.
I mean, just firing from the hip here. I guess it's more of a question. Can we do this on a committee by committee basis. And again, just playing devil's advocate here, because I think something like DEI, the nature of that is, you know, inclusion, thinking beyond your bubble, right? Facilities, probably not. I don't know why somebody in Lakeland or Putnam Valley or Haldane would really wanna come and talk about our HVAC system, unless they have, you know, particular expertise in that area, but who knows? So, yeah, I don't know, part of me feels like, and I think, I don't know how, it's not really a committee thing, but I know the garden club has been, Phillips and Garden Club's been involved in the past, and I don't know if there are people who live in Haldane who've been, you know, helping us out in that regard, so, I don't know, part of me just, that from just a purely, reactive standpoint, would wonder if there are opportunities to include people from outside of the district on things that make sense, like DEI, but that's, again, just plain devil's advocate.
Yeah, so I think, so this would specifically relate to the standing members of the board committees, as opposed to like Phillips Town Garden Club, where, you know, we certainly bring in folks from, you know, the broader community to the district to help with things within the school, all that kind of thing. I think it's really a question of, you know, who are the permanent members of the board committees?
I actually kind of think it's a little bit, I would go the opposite way. Eric said, like, I think with DEI, I think that's something really about, you know, our values as a community and a school district. I would want to, I think, I want to keep that smaller. And but if someone had special expertise in HVAC and we couldn't find someone, you know, in the Garrison School District, that they lived in Putnam Valley, but they were really going to help Joe or the committee or whoever think through something very technical or, you know, specific, I'd be open to that. But if we need, like if we're trying to look for like a policy, you know, for lack of a better term, yeah, I kind of feel like I'm more along with what Dan's thinking, that keeping it small then lets us have, or keeps us away from difficult conversations with people that we don't, and being accused of playing favorites, or, you know, I don't know what the word is, but being sort of biased in some way against people. Again, I thought about this for about 5 minutes, so.
You had all of my time battling to think about it more than I did.
So, my opinion is that there are board standing committees, it should be people who are voters on our budget, because a lot of those committees make recommendations to finance a budget. I do think there is a history of working together. The Learning Differences Committee, which is run by the PTA, was a joint committee of Garrison and Haldane, so the bigger Phillips Town community. I just looked on the website. Haldane does have an equity, diversity and inclusion committee as part of the PTA. So maybe if there are opportunities to partner with their PTA, and those PTA groups come together, but I do feel that if it's our board standing committee, because most of the work that we do eventually ends up somehow informing the budget, it should be people who are voting for that budget.
That makes it very simple. And just so you know, DEI is it's also ED out, because there's a Phillips Town DEI committee, so this member who is very active has another place to spend their energies.
I just bring up that I wonder if Haldane's DEI committee, they have a board committee as well.
No, they just have the.
It's
running
just through the
committee,
PTA?
yeah.
I wonder if it gets more engagement, or, anyway.
That's
There's
another story.
That's a whole other thing.
I was just looking to see if we do have a board policy about how we define community for community members.
I agree that I would like to keep it to voters and people, within the district, especially as you don't want overlap, like we opened there, we just are appointing tonight, hopefully, somebody for audit, like that gets into our finances, things like that, and I think it's a slippery slope if we open the door for one person, we're gonna perhaps have other people come in, and while you can't, anyone can read the audit at any point on our website, and it's a public document, but within the meetings, when having that one-on-one with our auditors, getting to ask them the questions, I prefer to have it with stakeholders in the community. And just, in seeing what's happening in other districts, it makes me nervous for opening it up to like other interest groups trying to come in to schools.
Anyone else? I can't, I had no opinion going in. You've all convinced me that it should be voters, but the only one I would say, you know, for example, the budget advisory committee, which we don't want comfortable advising, outside committee advising on our budget, but school lunch and solar, those are committees in which maybe people who don't live in this district but have expertise could be helpful. But I don't know, because it's a standing committee that has different charges every year, it's kind of hard to say.
I think we could invite them as guests, right?
Right, yeah, that's the thing, I mean, we're not saying
That's-
they can't come to meetings, they can't be involved and, volunteer their hours, we would certainly accept that. It's really just a question of, who are these, what is the scope of, the folks who we are going to appoint as standing permanent members of these committees. So yes, we would love to have them come to any of these committee meetings, come to these meetings, whoever wants to attend any of our meetings is great, but I think, it sounds like there's consensus that in terms of appointment of permanent members of these committees, that we will keep that to voters in the district essentially. And maybe we should look to update, maybe on a rolling basis, our committee charges to incorporate that sort of principle. Anything else? All right, with that, we will move to our first public comment session. This is item 6. Public comment is intended for members of the community to speak openly and voice concerns. In accordance with policy 1510 of the Garrison Union Free School District, any person wishing to speak shall comply with all provisions of this policy. Comments about specific school personnel or individual students is a violation of board policy. Concerns regarding students or personnel should be discussed privately with the superintendent or appropriate administrator. Comments should be limited to 3 minutes, and speakers are asked to conduct themselves in a respectful manner. The board will listen to comments, but will not engage in dialogue. Any necessary follow-up will be noted and provided through the appropriate channel. Members of the public wishing to comment during board meetings are asked to place their name and town of residence on the sign-in sheet. Commenters will be invited to the podium to address the board. Hearing none, we will close public comment and move on to item 7, acceptance of the minutes. Be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Garrison Union Free School District does hereby accept the minutes of the regular business meeting of August 21st, 2025 as presented. I need a motion. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any questions about the minutes? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Moving on to item 8, CSE and CPSE recommendations. Be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Garrison Union Free School District approve the Committee on Special Education and Committee on Preschool Special Education recommendations and student placements. May I have a motion?
Motion.
All in, any questions or comments on this? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Item 9, personnel items, consent agenda. Be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Garrison Union Free School District, upon the recommendation of the superintendent, hereby approves the items of the personnel consent agenda as presented. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Greg, did you want to speak to any of these?
Just very briefly, just to alert the board, we had some unanticipated and untimely resignations before the school year started, so a teacher aide position and a non-certified sub position. So I just want to let the board know that we're actively posted and we're actively interviewing to replace those. So where we thought we were going into the school year fully staffed, ready to rock and roll, situations are what they are, but we're able to kind of manage in the time being while we go and we recruit and get some new Duff's family members to join us.
Great. Also very exciting, as very apropos to what we were just talking about, we do have an appointment of an audit committee community member. Sarah, do you want to speak to that?
Kate Connor came recommended, a parent and works in finance, probably more qualified to be on this committee than I am, but I hope she will share my enthusiasm for our mission this year. So.
Not sure anybody can do that.
Yeah.
I don't know, I'm really committed
She'll
up.
definitely come in second.
She might come.
She even
close.
asked, like, if there was like stuff she could read, and I think she's gonna get into this. I'm
She'll be a
excited.
great member. Any other questions or comments on any of these items? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Moving on to item 10, approval of new business. Be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Garrison Union Free School District, upon the recommendation of the superintendent, hereby approves the new business items as presented. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Okay, we have two items here. Greg or Joe, do you wanna speak to these?
I can speak to them, both of them. Okay, so the first one is for, the approval of a contract for West Point Tours to provide, special education, transportation for a wheelchair student. This is the same contractor that we did, summer work, and they were the low bidder, and they, agreed to use the same price that they bid, for the summer for, the school year. So that's the wheelchair one, and then there's another one for, the approval to, excess obsolete playground equipment. This is for the, playground equipment that is next to the soccer field across the street. That, playground equipment hasn't been used by Garrison, students in quite some time, and it certainly hasn't been used at any time I've been here. It is obsolete, equipment, and what we're asking the board for is two things. One, to declare it obsolete so we can get rid of it. And the other is, we have a, couple of community members that, are willing to take it down and get rid of it, but we're asking, them to sign a release that releases the district from any liability should they choose to use this equipment somewhere else in, what it was originally intended for. And that release was something that was created by district council.
Does that cover if they're injured while taking it down?
It releases us from any liability at all, I believe, but I have to look at it again more closely to see if it says that too. Your attachments, if you don't mind.
I would say, yeah, it broadly releases us from, any liability related to installation or use of the playground equipment. So, I think it's a pretty broad release. It also expressly covers, removal, installation, or use. So, yeah, I would say we're covered on both of those fronts.
Yeah, so, indemnify and hold the district harmless for any and all claims,
Removal related.
expense or liability arising from
Removal,
removal, installation, or use.
Yeah. I just
So
said
it
something.
is in there.
Great. Any other questions or comments on this?
Yes, please don't bring it back.
Why do they want it? Are they just helping, or do they actually want it for something? Do you know?
I believe that they want it for something, so the only thing that we're going to do is to dig out the post long, down far enough so we can cut it off pretty low, the base, the soil line, and then we sort of tell them to have at it, and get rid of it.
And those holes will be covered in a way that's safe for people who might.
Yeah, well, the point is, we're gonna be covering that with dirt long, much above where it is. Cause most likely they're concreted in.
Right.
And we're not gonna dig up the whole concrete, we're just gonna dig down until we can cut it off as low as possible.
Thank you.
Any questions or comments on that? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Item 11 is our second public comment, which, as we have no public, we will skip and move on to item 12, board comments. Jocelyn, you up first.
Thanks, welcome back to school, thanks for school lunch, thanks for all the good things. Peter, thank you for agreeing to chair the task force. That's very nice of you and helpful. I'll give a planning committee update next meeting, but we were talking a lot about that in the meeting. And I also, related also to what you were discussing, at the last meeting, I know we got the SPO, I know we're moving forward with the study. And I just wonder, maybe once we meet with the researchers, like what's the process, what are we even measuring, what are the outcomes, and how will that all be decided? Is it going to be then asking us what the outcomes will be? Is it them coming up with them on their own? Do they have a template? So just, I would love to stay in the loop on whatever their process is for doing a study that is now commencing after the project already started.
yeah, we will get a protocol or some sort of proposal from them at some point to review. Is that correct?
Yeah, we had an initial meeting, Peter and I and Joe had an initial meeting with the Hannaford group. They were okay saying that it doesn't invalidate any study they're doing if you onboard him first. You know, it's, you know, people can, it's perceptual survey. I think what he's gonna do is try to carve out research questions that he wants answered, and then he's gonna work with his team on the metrics they're gonna use to do it. And they will.
But I think we should determine what we want.
Yeah, that's why Peter's not going to start the study yet. But we're, you know, right now I'm finalizing a cross BOCES contract so we can get them to capital. Once that cross BOCES contract is done and executed, you know, we'll make sure that this board designs the questions with the researchers. That's the plan of where we're at today.
Mhm. Thanks for doing that.
Eric?
No, just welcome back, everybody, and again, great job, Joe and Greg, on doing the unthinkable, which is getting a lunch program here. So and my kids are very excited, and a lot of other parents are very excited. So really appreciate all your guys' efforts there. And then again, just ditto what Jocelyn said about the SPO, and thank you, Pete. I hope we can also keep thinking about and discussing what the SPO's remit is specifically. Because, you know, I've raised in previous meetings what I personally believe, and also what I've heard from some parents who are for and against, and there's a lot of alignment on sort of, you know, where the SBO should and should not be engaged with students. So I hope we can continue to discuss that.
Jen?
I'd like to welcome everyone back and thank Allison and all of the teachers for making students feel very welcome their first day. Everyone I ran into in the neighborhood was very excited, not quite as excited as they were about the cheesy bread today, but very excited about the first day of school. So welcome back and thank you for all of your hard work in having a successful opening.
I would just also remind everybody that we have our board retreat on Monday from 5 to 9 is what we are currently scheduled for. We will do whatever we can to finish before 9, but
Cheesy bread?
there might be cheesy bread, might be leftovers, but yeah, looking forward to that and to a great, productive night. Nothing else for me. Pete?
Exciting things happening. The school sign looks really good. Thank you for the fonts work. In my intended way, was pushing. But I hope we can keep improving the signage around too. I know we talked about maybe doing the other 1 or 2 signs that we have. And so maybe in the budget for next year or whatever, and maybe we can do it fairly quickly now that we have a time to, you know, hammer it down. So that would be great. So thanks everybody for the work on that.
Ken?
Nothing more to add than normal stuff.
Okay, Sarah?
I have nothing else either.
All right, we do not have executive session tonight, so we will move to adjournment. Be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Garrison Union Free School District hereby adjourns the regular meeting of September 3rd, 2025. May I have a motion? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? All right, thank you, everybody.
So, Ken.